Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology, and welcome to Talk Live. All right, so glad that you joined us here this morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Cloud Talk Live. This is going to be a great one. I think you're really going to enjoy it, as well as, of course, enjoying hearing my email go off behind us, because I didn't turn those notifications off. Should have. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself. You're going to see the ticker reminding you to do that as we go through today. But it's always more fun when I know who is here and where you are. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'd love to hear from you. If you want to get a hold of us over here at the program, you can do that by sending an email to solve@rackspace.com. That email is going to come to the entire production crew. So Daniel may get it, I may get it, Julia may get it, Megan may get it. Folks, there's a small army of people around here who make the program come together every single week. So go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we will be off to the races. And hey, we've got some friends already showing up here. Let's see if I can arrange these windows where I can see who is actually saying hi. Oh, look at this. I love that. Hey, Riju, I can't pronounce things. I'm sorry. But I'm glad that you are here. Now, folks, this program, of course, is part of what's called the Rackspace Solve program. Now, Solve here at Rackspace is our thought leadership program. And it's that thought leadership program where we do nothing but give to you information and news and things to make your technical world a little bit better. Now, as part of that, our most recent podcast over on Cloud Talk, and you can subscribe to that anywhere you find your podcast. You can see them listed all along here. And is an episode with Chief Product Officer at Rackspace, Josh Pruitt. Now, Josh and I spend about 30, 40 minutes talking about the most recent research that we did. You know, Rackspace Cloud Talk, we do research every single quarter into different topics. And this past batch was a batch that had to do with the state of compute in all around the world. In fact, we talked to over 1,400 IT decision makers. Here's a little snippet of it. Did you know? In fact, we asked the question. We said, hey, 1,420 people, in the next 5 years, do you envision a time where you will not own a data center? What a provocative question, right? And I thought, I was on the fence on what the answers were going to be. Did you know that 56% of the respondents of those over 1,400 people said that they do envision a time where they won't have a data center? And that means, folks, that this is a brave new world we're going into. It's an incredible time to be a part of this type of transformation. Well, I have got to pause for a second and say and welcome Abbas from Iran. We've only had one or two folks show up from Iran. I'm so glad that you're here. Abbas, I would love for you to tell me what you do. So comment in the comments there. What's your specialty? Are you a network guy? Are you driving technology change as a business leader? Are you a developer? Tell me who you are, what you do, not just where you are. In fact, everybody can do that. We got a representation from Mexico. Buenos dias to Mexico. Also, San Antonio. Welcome, San Antonio. All right. Well, as you know, we are knee-deep in the middle of what we call our summer road trip. And the summer road trip is where we are going to different regions all around the globe, talking about how digital transformation is impacting those regions, this type of cloud transformation. Oh, well, no, that's not very nice, Atto. And so last week, where were we? England. Week before that, India. Week before that, Singapore. Week before that, Netherlands. And this week, we're off to Germany. So let's go ahead and, let's head off to Germany. All right, little delay there, but that's okay. Hey, now I have a great opportunity to get to introduce to you an amazing man. Now, this is Jürgen Stauber. Jürgen works for Rackspace. He is the general manager of our DACH region, which is all the German-speaking countries there in Europe. And Jurgen's been working in IT for, well, a good long time. So he comes with lots of experience. Now he's been working for Rackspace for about the past 2.5 years and has just got his finger on the pulse of what's happening in cloud transformation in his region. So with that, Daniel, let's go ahead and bring Jurgen up. Jurgen, welcome to Cloud Talk Live.
Hello, good afternoon from Germany. Hello, Jeff.
So glad that you're here, Jurgen. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Thank you. No problem. I'm happy to talk with you.
Excellent. Now, Jurgen, you've been working in IT for just a little while. And,
That's right.
And our goal here today really is to talk a little bit about, what kind of trends you're seeing in your regions, in your region there, and what's happening as far as transformation. I've seen some of the wind wires coming out of your area, and the companies and the size of companies your folks are working with are really impressive. But what's kind of top of mind for you today as we think about trends in cloud transformation in the DACH region?
So what in Germany, it's a bit a special area because we have a lot of, we call this enterprise customers, and many companies are family owned, so very traditional companies, doing a lot of things with their own. In the last couple of years, they started to do outsourcing, but not using heavily the public cloud. But now, over the time, by the second and third generation outsourcing, they're starting with the fourth outsourcing into moving into the cloud. And for this move, they need a lot of help to build around the right transformation strategy. They're asking for what's everything around security, because we in Germany have a lot of regulatories about data security and data privacy. And all these things are very important for these enterprises to understand, on the one hand, the security approach, and on the other side, to understand how they can migrate or bring the workloads into the cloud. That's a bit the key topic, besides some others, but this is the mainstream.
It is mainstream. Now, enterprises, you mentioned data there. We've got a data engineer from Dallas, Manuel. Glad you're here. Daniel saying, greetings, Jurgen. Costa Rica is here. And then, of course, we have lots from India. And then, hey, Louisiana's here. Sorry, I'm getting off screen so I can see the chat. I'm glad that everyone's here. Now, since you're focused, a lot of the focus is on those enterprise companies moving out to the cloud. Enterprises tend to have a lot of technical debt. They've been around for a while, and that becomes a big challenge in cloud transformation. Is that something you've noticed in your region as well?
On the one hand, yes, but I think to bring the workloads in the first hand into the cloud environment, a lot of companies are looking not around the technology, they are looking around about the applications, the business cases around the applications, and the transformation strategy, including the governance. So it's not a technical battle. It's more the way how to orchestrate this.
So you bring up a really incredible point, and that is that first of all, you're using some words: transformation strategy. This is not something to go into lightly. It's not something that you can flip a switch on, and it certainly isn't like the old days when we would go from Windows version X to Windows version Y, or VMware this to VMware that. This isn't a waterfall moment that you get past and then you go back to business. It's a change in the way you approach your business through the use of technology. And I love also the fact that you talk about governance. And then governance can be a scary word. People think, oh, you're trying to slow us down. But really, it's how you should be using the cloud. And it speaks very much to the organization. So a question for you, Jurgen, would be, how are the people in those organizations adapting to this type of change in their infrastructure?
I think it's a kind of a learning evolution program by all of the customers. So in the beginning, everybody is thinking we can do this in the same way as we did this first, and second, and third generation outsourcing, by doing everything tailor-made for the customer, adapting the technology into the direction of the applications, and then again everything is more technology-driven, and the applications are in the same way they are before. Yeah, this is not the case by moving applications into the cloud. That you have to make the other way around. You have to understand that the applications are ready for the cloud. Yeah, because otherwise you are not using the value of the cloud in the public cloud areas, and you are not in the end have a scaling. Inside of the demand, or you cannot do a fast track access to new technologies. In the end, you are moving applications in the old stack again, and this is not the idea. So modernizing is key, and therefore we talking with the customers to understanding in the beginning with discovery and assessments in detail the application and the workloads, and then to help the customer to develop the right migration strategy. Sometimes we modernize applications with the customer together,
Yeah.
and then to help the customer that the full value of the public cloud is in front of the customer. That's the idea.
Yeah, and I love the fact how you sort of pivoted here into talking about the application itself, because you're right. It's not like first or second generation outsourcing. Here, take my servers and off they go. But
Right.
really, it's a focus on that application. So, hey, again, Mexico City is here. Sergio, welcome. Bogdan from Montenegro. We've got Maryland here. I love Maryland. Grace, I'm glad you're here. We have Stalin from Chennai. Folks, those of you who are introducing yourselves in the cloud, and thanks, Daniel, for bringing up the ticker. Isn't that fun? Is don't just tell us where you are and who you are, but tell us what your focus is. I mean, Dan, who was it in Dallas said he was a data engineer. What is your focus in the world of technology? I'd love to know that as well. Jürgen I think he'd care too. So, all right, so let's get back to the conversation, Jürgen. So when we think about transformation, it's not just about infrastructure, it's about the application and what that business impact is going to be on the application. And this creates a challenge. And that challenge is when we were doing outsourcing before, that was from a budget inside of IT. And IT could plan for that. And IT could then fund that and move that over. And it becomes the new way they do business. But when we start to talk about applications and moving and transforming those inside of the cloud, now we're talking about moving into different budget lines. Now we're talking about the budgets that exist inside of the business unit. So as somebody who is leading a region as a general manager, how does that impact conversations to say that like rack space sellers is the audience changing in who you have to talk to?
Yes, you're right. So absolutely, Jeff. We have normally in the transformation strategy, not only the IT department, we're working with them, but on the other side, we have the different business units owning the applications, the industry applications or the business applications. And then we're doing assessments, talking about who is using the applications. And in the end, oftentimes, the business units are using the time to refresh, to update the applications as well in some business processes, and not only to transform the application as the application is today. So it's a very multi-dimensional dialogue between IT, business, and the provider.
And that only continues. So when you think about not just how are we going to plan for and make this move, then we get into the aspect of I say one of the most important aspects, and that's financial operations or FinOps, as you see it referred to. And if you're not familiar with FinOps, go to finops.org, folks, and just watch some of their introductory videos. But what that does is it talks about think the Venn diagram of IT and the business and finance all working in concert, because the buying metric absolutely changes when you go to a cloud-based model. In the past, when IT said, hey, we need more servers for the application to run, well, it became a conversation with finance, and then finance would get the approval and would go down to procurement, and they would find the servers and they would bring the servers in. You know the routine. But now infrastructure is procured through a line of code. Now infrastructure is procured and maintained and sustained through applications. And that's a totally different dynamic. And so the dynamic of managing the financial health of the application becomes one that becomes a new dance between the business and IT and the development staff and the financial teams. Jürgen, how have you seen that manifesting itself as well?
In the situation with the customers, if you're migrating the customers, oftentimes you have a mix in a way of bringing applications very optimized into the cloud, but oftentimes as well applications in the first phase you migrate the applications, and later on you doing optimization and migrations. The point is to help the customer to optimize step by step in a kind of a journey, and as well after the migration, to optimize the costs, and in the same way to optimize the performance of the application. Yeah, and what we are doing is not only doing a technical job that the application is running later on in the public cloud, as we have a lot of tools where we can analyze each workload, how they are consuming the inside of the cloud environment, and then to help the customer by changing something that we achieve the cost envelope we decided before. And most likely, in the most cases, we are able to achieve this. So the customer brings us, let me say, friendly into prison if we are not committing the technology transformation in the same way as a business case. So the customer is asking for, please make sure that the business case in the end is as well working. And that's a different role now.
It is a totally different role. In fact, we have Alejandro mentioned in the comments that he is a cloud business consultant starting his journey in that role. Now, as a cloud business consultant, Alejandro, this is your life. You should be paying very close attention to this, because it's not just about the capability, but I call it the business sustainability of the application over time, or applications over time. Now, Bogdan asks a question. He says, are there any challenges in monitoring and solving performance issues? And I've been dying for someone to ask this question, because I have a favorite company. In fact, they're a sponsor of the program, and that is App Dynamics. Because, Jürgen, one of the things that you're very familiar with is when you move an application to the cloud, especially as it becomes cloud native, and we don't have servers in some cases to even put a monitoring agent on. We have to have a way to observe the functionality of these applications. And of course, observability, that's watching the application from the source, from the user, all the way back into the backend databases and all points in between. And it's not just monitoring those things, but tying them to business metrics. And that's one of the things that observability brings to the table that we really couldn't do in real time before. So, Jürgen, how have you seen from a continual optimization point of view, observability or enhanced tying of the function of that application to business metrics, tying into the success of customers in their cloud experience?
I'm not sure if I understanding the question very well. The point is, by migrating the applications, we have different phases. On the one hand, it's a transformation phase. On the other side, if the application is going live, we have a lot of tools and processes around to make sure we have a hypercare phase and ensuring that the applications are running right. And as you mentioned, we are using as a team a lot of applications and tool sets to hypercare the application and bring the application into the right stabilized situation. Yeah, that's what we are doing, and therefore we have a kind of dashboards and monitoring tools that we can proactively measure this. It's not that we are waiting for the next incident. We are doing this proactively.
Well, what that ties into is modern ways of application management. Again, it's the old ways don't necessarily apply. So what are some of those new methods or capabilities that customers have for managing applications in the cloud in a modern way? Lots of capabilities there. So also from a critical business capability, HA becomes a lot easier to achieve in a cloud-based world as well. Have you seen a lot of companies implementing HA in your region?
Honestly, at the moment in our area in Germany, we are not observing this heavily, especially in the DACH region. Maybe it's coming in the future, but not at this stage.
Well, and that may be also tied to the fact that you have some pretty tight regulations as well, especially in the DACH region, about data staying in country. Your data sovereignty is pretty huge. How much does that play into the conversation?
I think in the last couple of years, it's going more in the direction that you're not talking about that's impossible using modern cloud or public cloud. The point is to understand the data requirements, for example, SRAM2 and all these things, and how you manage the data security inside of the requirements of the customer and the requirements from the regulatories. And that there is a lot of opportunities to bring applications into the cloud as long you are following the rules, yeah. And,
Yeah.
and maybe you are doing some data encryptions and all these things, but you can use a lot of technologies to satisfy these regulatories.
It's a really good call out. It's and so much of the cloud is like this. It's not just a one size fits all. It's not a paintbrush application. It is look at the
Yeah.
specific requirements and how can you tune the cloud or tune the solution to meet those requirements.
Yeah.
Well, Jürgen, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the program. Now, in a little bit, you're going to go backstage, but I want to give you a chance to pitch this here. And that is, we were talking before, the only thing we sell on this program is the opportunity to come and work at Rackspace. And I'm going to talk about one of your roles, but maybe you want to give a small pitch for it here as well, the Enterprise CSM.
Yes. So we are searching for a client success manager, and we call it an enterprise success manager. This role is a person is leading the whole service orchestration in front of a customer and loves to serve customer and to take care that every environment of the customer is working well inside of the technology commitments and scope to the customer end to end. And in the end, as I mentioned before, that we are managing the cost as well, right? So it's a very interesting job, not only technology driven, it's very business driven.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks for that. And folks, I'm going to talk about that role here in a little bit more in detail. And then Daniel will drop it in the chat. So Jürgen, have an amazing day. Thank you so much for being a part of this, joining us from Germany.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Wasn't that interesting, folks? I love hearing about that. Well, look at Daniel's pitching hard for working with the DACH team. All right. Well, that was, of course, our amazing conversation with Jürgen. And folks, you can find all of this information out over on, there we go, over at www.rackspace.com. You will find links to the podcast. You'll find articles. You will find the ability to subscribe to this podcast, which will have the audio from this program as well, and all the previous ones. So make sure you check it out. All right, that was our discussion, which takes us, of course, on to This Week in Cloud. Now, in This Week in Cloud, that's where we talk about news, things that are happening out in the world, and why it's important in a cloud context. Now, first up is an article. I thought this was just super interesting. And that is a company called Cloudflare. And transparency, Cloudflare is a Rackspace partner. They're pretty awesome. That's why I was paying attention to them. But they did a news release last week. And that news release is that they mitigated a week ago a denial of service attack that was up to 26 million requests per second of a distributed denial of service attack. And it was the largest HTTPS attack on record to date anywhere. Isn't that amazing? Now, what was kind of cool about this is within less than 30 seconds of the attack, this botnet had generated over 212 million requests from over 1,500 networks in 121 different countries. Now, the top countries, Indonesia, United States, Brazil, and Russia. Go figure. And I think that is really pretty amazing. Now, this is the most amazing part is the customer who was the target, the Cloudflare customer who was a target was on the free plan. Free plan protected him from this massive attack. Can you imagine? All right. Also in the news, green. Have you considered green? Now, an article from the Houston Chronicle asked the question, can a green cloud help build a sustainable future? Now, it's a title that is asking a question. I'm going to give you the answer. If you go over to the chron.com, chron.com, you can find this article over there. The answer is, of course it can. Now, why can it? And it's the details in the article that you want to look at. The nut of it is it's around the focus of the individual companies who are by nature, this is what they do, whether they are companies like a Rackspace or our peers who manage data centers for a living or the hyperscale cloud providers. It is in their and our best interest to run these as efficiently as possible, as renewable as possible, as green as possible. And when we think sustainability, you want to think about a few different dynamics here. The first, of course, is green. That's why the screen's green. You also want to consider it from the aspect of a door that's opening on its own. Economic sustainability. Are these solutions good in the long term, as well as solutions around, are these solutions equitable? Are we giving everyone an opportunity to participate and to get better? So that's what's going on in the news, my friends. With that, we move over to our next segment, and nothing is going forward. And in that next segment, we will, there, I can push the buttons, talk about what's new from the cloud providers this week. And we will start from our friends over at AWS. Now, you may be familiar with Amazon Connect. Amazon Connect is that cloud-based service that allows you to do your entire call center virtually through Amazon, through the cloud. Now, they've added some new features, and those are the features to be able to do outbound-based campaigns with calls or texts. Why did that go away? Calls or texts and emails. So they're entering into the outbound world, not just the inbound world. All right, moving on over to Azure in public preview, Azure Virtual Network Manager. Now you may be asking yourself, saying, "Hey, what happened? Are they just now getting into the world where they're allowing you to manage your networks?" No, the Azure Virtual Network Manager is the ability to manage networks from a single pane of glass across multiple regions, subscriptions, tenants, all sorts of areas. And there are about 9 different data centers that they released. And I got to turn this piece off just for 1 second because I can't see my notes to tell you where they are. Oh yeah, my area. So that would be South Central, U.S. South Central. Turn this back on now. U.S. South Central, Southeast Asia, Canada Central, Japan East and West, Australia East, UK South, Switzerland North, and Central India. These are the regions that that is available in now. All right, and then lastly, from our friends over at Google Cloud, Anthos clusters on VMware. You can read it now below. So these are the latest capabilities of Anthos on the latest versions of VMware. Now, Anthos, as you may or may not be aware, is akin to AWS Outposts as well as Microsoft Azure Stack. And that is the clouds themselves leaving the cloud data center. Going where? Well, could be a Rackspace data center, could be your data center, could be the very tippy edge. And this is really, this is an area to watch, especially my new Alejandra, the new cloud consultant. Pay attention to these capabilities. Again, whether it's Anthos or Outpost or Azure Stack. And the ability of the clouds to reach out beyond their data center. This is some interesting stuff. All right, so that takes us on to the one thing that we sell here at Rackspace. You just heard Jürgen give a pitch for this, but that is the Rackspace job of the day, and it's an enterprise cloud consultant. Let's get all the graphics moved through. Enterprise Customer Success Manager, Enterprise Customer Success Manager. Now, as an Enterprise Customer Success Manager, you'll be owning the relationship between Rackspace and your portfolio of customers. The Customer Success Manager is expected to continually strengthen these relationships, go deeper, help utilize the cloud at just the right time to solve business opportunities or challenges. So if you're interested in that job, Daniel has already posted it to the comments over on the LinkedIn page. Love for you to check that out, or any of the other literally hundreds of jobs we have available there. Rackspace is hiring. Rackspace is changing the world. So you can always find more information out over at rackspace.jobs. So go check that out. All right, everybody. Over at Rackspace, if you want to learn more about any of the thought leadership we have here, you want to go check out any of the research that we did. All of it is available at rackspace.com/solve. Now, I mentioned a company before when referring to that question about monitoring, and that is AppDynamics. AppDynamics is a pretty darn amazing company. They take observability. Well, they're the experts in observability. So I'd love for you to go check them out. And I think that we've even got a program running where we will do an application for free and show you what true cloud observability looks like. So just head over to appdynamics.com and they'll get you helped out. Now, next week's episode, super excited about it. Does your organization provide resources for different community groups within your own company? Well, we do here at Rackspace, and they're called Racker Resource Groups, or RRGs. Now, I hope you'll come back next week where we'll dig into Racker Resource Groups and how Rackspace is supporting next week, specifically our LGBTQ plus community in honor of Pride Month. So I hope that you will check that out. Everyone, for everyone here at Rackspace, I want to say thank you for joining the program today. This is the end of today's episode. But folks, we are back next week, and with that episode around Rack Space resource groups. We'll talk to you then.